Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. And I feel like we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I mentioned it in the pre-show, but baseball is back. And normally I don't pay attention this early, but the Braves have been playing pretty well. And then the Tampa Bay Rays had their streak going, which I think was a unique storyline to start the year where they started 13-0. Which just happened to tie a Braves record. I think the Brewers also did it. And so with that, I'm wondering, like, you have all these other sports coming back, NHL playoffs, Penguins didn't make it. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't make it. And they were only down, I think they were out by 2 points. And it just makes you, like, shake your head and wonder, like, is it over for them?
But you know what? And then at that point, they completely gutted their front office. Like, they fired 3 of their top guys. So, I mean, I think that if that's not a clear indication that was not acceptable, you know, I think there's no other way to put it.
I agree. And just thinking how close they probably were, I don't know if they would have been able to, like, make a run. Hockey playoffs are always so crazy that it doesn't matter. Like, the Bruins had so many points. Did they break the Red Wings record for, like, most points? I can't remember if they did or not now.
I believe they did.
So, like, you have them coming in. How many times has a team been crazy in the regular season only to choke in the first round, though? So,
well, I can remember talking to someone recently about this, and they were like, you know, you look at what's going on with the Penguins, and everybody else in the league has all these really fast guys, and the Penguins don't. I'm like, well, you can counter that because for a while when the Pens were having their deep playoff runs, the teams that really gave them problems were the teams that were really physically getting after them. And
it's like slowing them down. It's annoying.
Yeah, just like they can play bully hockey, but you can't be slow and unaggressive.
That's, if people watch college hockey, that's like the old Notre Dame. You're like, what the hell's up with this team? you're Notre Dame. Why are you built like this? Get some guys out there, some speed. No one wants to watch that kind of hockey. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to build and then have a team that, like, the Penguins have had so much sustained success. I feel like they have to go back down at some point. I know, like, you still have the guys there. You're trying to keep everything together, right? Like, come on, how many more years can we milk out of them? But eventually you got to hit the twilight years, right?
Yeah.
You would think.
I would say so.
So then at that point, I think the question becomes, like, you clean the front office. Are you going to, like, try to build a younger team? Try to, like, nuke everything and start over? Because, like, I feel like the Devils have been, like, so bad because they always get all these top draft picks. I want to say they had, like, 3 Michigan guys that were, like, drafted high on their team. It's like, from the past 2 years, like, how are all these guys going to play for the Devils? Like, they're the high draft team every year, and now they're, like, the number 2 seed and making a jump. But I feel like the Penguins need to kind of reload like that, even if it's only for, like, 2 years or so. And I guess you can do it with free agency or whatever. But teams want to have to, or players have to want to come play for your team. Do people want to live in Pittsburgh?
I would say kinda.
Kinda.
Like, I think when the teams are playing well, I think the city really is a strong support. But they're also really quick that if you're losing, they're gonna let you know.
Yeah, that's where I think a lot of people, they're like, yeah, they need to go to this team. It's a real sports town. And then it always cracks me up because, like, right before they got Sid and them, Penguins were, like, so, like, dead in attendance that they were, like, ready to lose the team in Pittsburgh. Yeah. And then they're like, we're back, baby. And it's like the Pirates are the same way. The stadium's completely dead. They started the year. Someone sent me a thing of, like, the Pirates starting the year hot, and I told them, like, are you joking? Like, it's been 2 weeks, buddy. What are you talking about? The Pirates are not going to keep winning. Their team is garbage. It would be like watching a movie, basically.
They're built for spring training.
Yeah. You don't start top. Like, they would pretty much make that into a movie, I would say, if that were to happen. Don't you think? If the Pirates won the World Series, people would be shocked. It's like Angels in the outfield. Except there's no Angels. Like, there's not going to be a Pirate coming out there and blessing all the bats to get them hits. But
it may take actual piracy.
Yeah, you have to scare the other team and hurt them.
Just be like, no, you're playing on our team now. You just start kidnapping players from the other team.
And then didn't one of their starting guys like broke his leg or whatever the first week. So it's like, oh, all right. That's basically the way the season's going to go. You can't be excited. They fell back down, and now it's like whatever they started hot, they're back into the middle of the Central right now at 10-7, and it's only a matter of time because like the Cardinals started 7-10, they will be flipped. There's no way like the Pirates will be better than the Cardinals this year, and if they are, I'll be completely shocked because like the Pirates make 0 moves. So if the Cardinals always make moves, so like if the Pirates are this bad, or this, like, I guess they're decent right now, but they're never going to end up like this. They're going to become bad. They'll try to make a trade, and it won't work out. It'll be like when they traded for Chris Archer. They're like, we were so close. It's like, at this point, why are you trading for an old pitcher that is going to destroy your rotation? You might as well just keep going with what you're going or go bullpen like everybody else. But that's all my baseball talk. Or I guess NHL and NBA. The NBA kind of play-in games. Did you pay attention to any of that? Because I saw people that were like not paying attention. Like they just wanted to hate on the NBA for some reason. And it was like, hey, the NBA playing stupid. You're having 7 and 8 play and then 9 and 10 play. But the way they did it is the 7 and 8 team played. Whoever won, they're the 7 seed, and so they're in. So if you're the 8 seed, you can like get the 7 seed with being 10 games behind or whatever. If it worked out like that, and then the 8 and 9 or the 9 and 10 play for the right to play one more game against the loser of that 7-8 game. So they would potentially have to play 2 games extra just to get the number 8 seed, which I think is a pretty cool way to do it. I also don't really know how that's supposed to help people tanking, right? Because, like, what's the benefit? Like, oh, yeah, we're going to play the number 1 team because that's even if we're lucky enough to win. Or we lose right away. And whatever. I mean, maybe if the lottery chances were all the same for all of those teams and you only gave the team that finished dead last like a higher lottery pick or like the bottom 2, maybe then you get some more teams that were like trying to win, right? But like if a LeBron comes around, I could see teams like just want to be like, "Hey, that's the next LeBron. We better just tank." Same with like hockey. Like you get a guy that's like awesome, like Crosby. You win a couple cups. It's like, is it worth it to tank him and Ovechkin? Like, yeah, probably. Think of how much publicity Pittsburgh and the Caps have gotten since those 2 were drafted. Some teams like don't get that ever. So like if you have a chance of tanking to get that talent, why wouldn't you? That's my hot take. Anything you have for high tempo?
The only thing this week is had to do some drafting this week for T-ball. So going to be having some spring baseball of my own this year. I was voluntold that I would be head coach of a T-ball team, so I rounded out my roster of 6 players. We'll be getting after it.
Wait, there's only 6 players of the team?
Yep.
Do the dads play the other positions?
No.
Why not?
Because it's like hungry hippos. As soon as the ball's hit, they're all just going to converge on the ball anyhow.
You need a dad at first base. That's what you should do.
No, because they're trying to improve the transition league where the kids are starting to pitch. So at this T-ball level, it's like we're giving them a couple pitches and then they get wackadoo off the tee.
Well, I'm thinking of like to practice fielding. It makes zero sense for someone to be the first baseman. If you're trying to like actually do that, it would be nicer to paint lines in the infield because like no one's going to hit out of the infield basically, really. So like you can just have the lines. So if you only have 6 dudes, 3 from second to third on the right side and then 3 on the left side, and then an adult that just stands on first base. So that way you're at least practicing, having the kids practice to like get the ball and try to throw it to first. Right?
Well,
and that's if one of the other adults a catcher.
Let's be honest. What will end up happening, even in a best case scenario, is the kid will scoop the ball up and won't even be close to throwing to first base. So
yeah, but from my experience, there's always like 2 kids that can kind of throw. You put one on each side and kind of make it like a little bit help. And then like if it's in their lane in the grass or whatever, if the ball gets past that person, just teach that one kid that knows what they're doing to kind of run back to the dirt to get it or whatever. Because like a lot of times I see a kid like make a stop and he tries to make the throw, and the kid on first is like, no chance of catching it. So at least if you're doing it this way, you're making it watchable for the parents. Because if the kids can't catch or throw, you're like, they're like, Mom, did you even see any of the game? You were on your phone the whole time.
It was kind of a shocker because when I was helping coach last year, it was like even during the practices there weren't a lot of people there. I was like, all right, like this is just going to be like a real laid back thing. And then the game started. I turned, and it was like 50 people there. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, the game. That's why I'm saying try to make it decent for the parents. You can even make it crazier if you go on eBay, buy a cell phone jammer, pop that baby in the dugout, and then watch all the parents like not be able to get on their phones, Matt. Then they'll have to pay attention, and then boom, you have like people yelling at you.
Oh my gosh!
Come on, coach! Why you put my kid on third? He sucks. So then you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Why am I coaching this? Because it's like, you watch your kid go up there, and it reminds me of like King of the Hill when Bobby's up there, and Hank's like, why did you put my son in? He's garbage. Everyone knows it. Some dad will be like, yo, don't even throw the ball. You're just wasting time. At this point, put on the tee. He might hit it off the tee. Get a strike 3 just standing there on the tee because you're missing. Like, you missed the ball, you're out, buddy. Let's speed this game up. We're only playing 3 innings. You're out of here in a half hour. Everyone leaves happy. Because I've been at too many of the games where it's like, what was the one? One of the coaches like, hey, you guys want to play another one? Another inning? I'm like, no. No one wants that. What are you talking about? Have you been here? Have you been watching the game? That's my experience with the youth sports. Because it's like, honestly, my recommendation would be, because I hear a lot of parents that are like, hey, yeah, you have to start your kids young at like a team sport. And I'm like, you're not really doing team stuff. Like in baseball, you really don't have to communicate with your teammates at all in T-ball. Right?
Yeah.
So like at what age does that really start? It's like more when they're like getting into little league age. I could see that being big, but I'm not big on having kids do like tons of stuff. If anything, I would say more like soccer, just because you have to run. And I feel like a lot of kids don't run at all.
Not so fast. My kids tried soccer and they rebelled against it. They wanted no part.
Well,
actively worked against their team.
I went swimming, dude, because swimming, you have to do it, and it's a life skill, right? Because like you can't dog it in swimming, or you're drowned.
You do enough to just keep your head in the water.
Everyone's yelling. It's like kind of raucous because like if you're indoors, it's like go go go, and no one can hear what they're saying. And there's always that one mom yelling their kid's name like super loud. And people are like, "Come on, calm down, lady. What are you doing?" But that's my thing. Get them into swimming if you have that, because I know in the north that's kind of a luxury. Being down here, swimming is like big. The other sport that's big, lacrosse. And I think about the hand-eye coordination in T-ball and how you're talking about maybe the kids will hit it if you're pitching to them. In lacrosse, you have to actually catch the ball with your net. Otherwise, you're going to be scooping it up, right?
Yeah.
So, to me, yeah, you're throwing the lacrosse around a little bit, but I don't know. I kind of like hockey, too, but hockey is just so expensive for like a young kid. Because that's like another thing they can learn how to do is like skate. Learn how to skate. You could be in the X Games, right? I think they do rollerblades. Why wouldn't they? That might be more of a 90s thing, though. So, anything else you want to hit on high tempo?
No.
Well, good luck coaching, dude. You have more patience than me. I'd be out of there. Like, come on, get out of there.
Repping the Germantown winery, baby.
Oh, I do. I didn't bring it up, but I kind of like flag football. I think they start tackle way too young because like I see the kids practice tackle and it looks like the pads are 3 times their size. And it's like, buddy, can you even move your head? It's like, I'm just trying to like stand up. And there's always one kid that's just running wild out there. That's like a beast child. And parents are like, that's my son. He's going to be the next Ezekiel Elliott, baby. And it's just like, he hits high school. He's still 5'5". Like, buddy, he's not going to be playing in the NFL. I'm sorry. He peaked back when he was playing 8-year-old tackle football. That was his glory days. So, but I think flag football, honestly, because sometimes I see like the NFL doing it for All-Star games or whatever is annoying, dumb. But having like young kids do it, because again, you have to run. And it kind of teaches you like, because not really what people consider team sports, but like martial arts and stuff too, I think is always good. Now we're like kind of off topic what we normally talk about. But I feel like you got to have your kids learn something like that, because I see too many kids where, because I talked about it before, but I used to be a teacher. And it's like, I pick up the football, kid's like, yo, throw me the ball. I throw it to him. It smashes him right in the face. It's like, oh, what the hell? You're 12, buddy. At least knock it down. Like, I'm expecting you to do something. I'm not even throwing the ball that hard, but to just miss completely or not even move your head out of the way. As an adult, you're like, oh, man. So some of these, like, learning the hand-eye coordination. And I talk about swimming being a life skill. I feel like hand-eye coordination is 100% used in driving. And so when I see people that are, like, fumbling around with their hands, I'm always thinking, like, one day that kid's going to be driving. And he's going to be a disaster on the road. And I don't want to be out there. Because, like, you need, like, flag football, you kind of need to drive, like, successfully. Like, you have to kind of anticipate the curves, anticipate, like, merging into the highway. And it's like, flag football kind of teaches you that. Right? You have to take the right angle.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're, like, running into the berm. Like, I don't know how my car did that. I don't know how I ended up in the grass. I saw a guy the other day, or I guess it was like a month or two ago. I don't know when the last time I drove into the Raleigh was. Raleigh has like these huge like hills, like where they built like the road down in. The guy had drove off the highway and cleared straight up the hill to where the tree line was. And he had like 8 fire trucks pulling him out. And I thought, who does that? At what point would you be driving uphill, which is all grass, and wonder, like, I should probably stop? Like,
I wonder what's up here.
And he just, like, you see the guy just sitting there with, like, so much shame as 8 fire trucks are there, and he just, like, clearly it's a one-car accident, because luckily he didn't hit anybody. But I wondered, like, hopefully his brakes went out, and, like, that was how he saved his car, Because that would be a heroic story. But I feel like I would have saw that on the news. I look on the news, it's like, single car accident. Guy was still investigating. It's like, yeah, still investigating. Why did he do that? Like texting, and it's like, oh, crap, I'm already this far. Let's just keep riding it out. Maybe they'll come down the other side and the road will just be there. I'll merge back in, baby. But let's get into our NFL stuff. Big news. Jalen Hurts signs a 5-year contract for a total of $255 million, I believe. Not all of it's guaranteed. 178 or something like that is guaranteed. $1 million, not 178 bucks, which would be a shame.
$1.78.
So he's there. I think for 5 years, I think they overpaid. Obviously, they made him the best paid player in the league. I think like Patrick Mahomes has to be sad a little bit because he signed that 10-year deal, right? I kind of wonder if Mahomes' deal lines up with like Andy Reid's retirement, where he's kind of like, I'm going to coach for maybe 10 more years. 10 is the max, and Mahomes is like, I could sign for 10 more years. And if I'm Andy Reid, I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. Perfect timing, buddy. We can go out on top. Hopefully. Or I'll go out on top, and then you can keep playing and probably wither away. Like most other quarterbacks. But Jalen Hurts, I like him. I've been high on the Eagles all year. I was calling that they would make the Super Bowl. I was hoping that they won the Super Bowl. I still think they got ripped off in that game. And I'm watching this happen, and I see Lamar Jackson, and I know that's your guy. You love him. Is it the ACC thing? Is that why you're always following what Lamar Jackson's doing? Or is it because he's a Raven? You hate him that much?
Well, it's more so that he bucks tradition in so many different ways. Like not having an agent, not being a pocket passer, not winning Super Bowls. He just checks all the boxes, just unconventional.
So if he had an agent, you'd be cool?
I think he would be in a better situation. He's not going to sign a $256 million contract.
Because
there's a big part of me that feels bad because it's like there's so many NFL players that I feel like are taken advantage of in the league because of the business aspect, and they don't receive good business advice, and so they end up either taking deals or pursuing options that doesn't help their long-term career. And not that I have any skin in any of this anyhow, but I just for players that are talented, I'd like to see them be in a spot where they can maximize, their potential. And I feel like with some of the stuff that you're seeing with Lamar Jackson, it's like he's running into one barrier after another in these contract negotiations, and everyone around him is just lapping him on this stuff. Like, at what point do you look in the mirror and just go, okay, Aaron Rodgers is old and being like, I'm 99% going to retire because I'm just hanging out in a cave that's completely dark. Like, he's getting these big deals. Jalen Hurts just signed a deal and lost the Super Bowl. Like, I want to be paid. What do they have that I don't?
But is it the injuries and stuff? Because the other guys that have signed the big deals, they haven't really been injured, right?
I would agree with that too.
Because I think that's where he's kind of stuck. I don't think it's more of the agent type thing. Yeah, he might be able to get a better or a worse deal, but I'm sure he's doing all these other deals. He probably has some advisors or whatever. But my main thing is it has to be the injuries. Because why wouldn't you take a chance? And I keep seeing people talk about the Colts need a guy. And if I was taking a chance, and I think we talked about this before, but looking at the guys in this draft, the quarterbacks coming in, they're all question marks. If you're the GM and you get Lamar, that's better than anything that the other guys could provide. You could come in 10 years and say oh, look, so-and-so drafted the next Tom Brady in that draft where you guys brought in Lamar. And I think the GMs, look about the Penguins we talked about earlier, you can get fired at any time, right? So I think if you're looking at it from just a stats perspective, get the guaranteed guy, right? If he gets injured, whatever. Put that in as like a non-guaranteed or whatever. I think that's where Lamar is getting stuck because he wants it guaranteed, and people are saying, like, look, buddy, we can't because you've been injured. And so I don't know how he can win that argument. And I don't think he's going to. I think he has to take less guaranteed, like Hurts. And heck, if he balls out, put in there that he can switch more to guaranteed or whatever. Right? Why not? I mean, Ben Roethlisberger took all those extra payouts, and he played hurt all the time. Like, he was always hurt. He was like riding his motorcycle around town. You never knew what was going to happen with that guy. So that's my thoughts on it. It's like, all right, you're saying what you want and like what you really need to do as the player. Instead, is like put it in actionable terms or whatever, where you're saying like, hey, I need this much money. Let's get it done. And if you don't want to do it, trade me. And I guess he is kind of doing that by saying he's going to hold out and all this stuff. But I feel like other teams coming after him, he's going to have to gamble on himself and probably take less, go to a new team. And if he wins with them, then I feel like that's a win. Like the Colts are in the AFC. All the teams, or all the good quarterbacks, are on teams in the AFC pretty much. If Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, I really don't know what NFC team has any quarterback that would like even be considered in the top. Hurts, that's it.
I think that ship is going to be sailing actually at this point.
Why?
Because I feel like with what Green Bay is going to expect, like they want a first round pick for Rodgers, and when he's coming out and just being like, I don't know, I kind of feel like I was going to retire, like 90% going to retire after the year, and like just coming out just being so like I don't even care. Like, what will make you think, oh yeah, I want to sink my long-term investment into a guy that I don't even know if he's going to survive the year. Like, is he just going to quit in the middle of the year and just pull an Antonio Brown? Like, that's not like what's going to give you peace of mind.
Don't throw my guy Antonio into this. There's no way Aaron Rodgers would pop his shirt off and jump around on the field like that.
You don't know that.
There's zero chance of that. He lives in a cave. You already said that.
Yeah, he might just be like, I'm returning to my cave.
That's why I want his deal done. Like, I don't want him to play for the Packers next year. There's zero chance of him coming in and winning the Super Bowl. Right? I'd have zero confidence.
Zero's a pretty firm number there.
As a Packers owner, Matt, I don't care. I'll put it at 0 and I'll celebrate if he pulls it off as a reverse jinx, right? Because there's a 0% chance that the Packers are winning the Super Bowl next year. Are we getting? It'd be a miracle on miracles. It'd be like, instead of the miracle on ice, it'd be like Aaron Rodgers would be, they'd have to do like the Sistine Chapel where like they're touching fingers. It would be Aaron Rodgers handing the Lombardi Trophy to Love as he wearing like a Jets uniform. Because that's the only way the Packers win the Super Bowl, is if they got the Jets picks and somehow drafted a bunch of monsters, right? Is that the right chapel? I don't even know where those arts are. I'm not really an arts guy. Dude, allergies are just killing me tonight. So we'll see how long I can even stick together. I feel like I had a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about too. NFL wise, Steelers traded for Allen Robinson. I don't know if it actually went through. I feel like I'm always gun shy now after the Aaron Rodgers trade. They reported it that it was happening, and now it's like just there. Like, did they get Allen Robinson? I don't know. Is it a good pick? Yeah, I like him. Is it going to be anything worthwhile for the Steelers? Like, probably not. That's how I feel. I feel like right now, even riding Pickett, the Steelers aren't winning the Super Bowl. It'd be a miracle, even probably greater than the Packers, maybe. I just think they're too young. but I want them to try to like get the defense going again a little bit better, right? You don't need more weapons. What are you doing?
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because I've been seeing some of the mocks that are really high on some secondary guys. Do you think Pittsburgh goes secondary with their first pick?
They've done that pretty recently, so I don't see why they wouldn't, right?
Because I mean, the biggest glaring need is the offensive line, and they've signed some guys that I feel like are going to potentially be contributors / stopgap people.
Yeah,
but like with what I'm seeing, the different analysts are saying that it's Pittsburgh's too early to draft some of these offensive linemen, and I think like, does it matter? Like if you need offensive linemen and there's an offensive lineman, like, so it doesn't match like what the value of the pick is. If you have the potential to pick like a phenomenal offensive lineman that can anchor down one of your 5 spots for the next 10 to 12 years, like, why would you just let him go? Because, well, there's a chance that this cornerback or this safety is a better value here, and we can hope that maybe the guy falls to the end of the first round when they pick again.
Well, it's the same thing. I want to bring this up because I never really talked about it, but like, it's when the Steelers traded up for Devin Bush, right? And everyone was like, the first year, they're like, that was an awesome pick. He's like fast as hell. He gets hurt, loses his speed, which is his thing, right? And then everyone, like in hindsight, they're like, awful pick. Well, what a waste, trade up for that guy. Couldn't they tell he's undersized? It's like, for 1 year, he was playing really good for that pick, and everyone was talking about how great pick it was. But that's what you're kind of hanging on. So even if, that's why I think a lot of teams get scared, because they don't want to be the guy that traded up or drafted a lineman that was like a little too small or whatever else. The reason why he's like slated lower. And so they're like, I'll get this guy that kind of doesn't fit what I need, but it's on our board because we have that position open. And that's like insane to me how they grade some of these drafts by teams that constantly go back and look. Because I was curious the one day I was going back through. But a lot of teams that you see that always lose every year, go back and see how great their draft grades are. Because even the outlets, they're not looking at like, are these guys going to make an impact? They're like, no, they had openings at cornerback, DL, tight end. And guess what? They picked a guy for there. Check. Perfect. All the spot, it's like drafting in Madden on like the video game where it's like, well, I need this roster spot filled or it won't let me start my season. I better draft somebody there. And then they're like, A+, great moves, guys. That was a really great guy. He played in the SEC. He played for Vanderbilt. They only won 2 games, but that's okay because that still it means more down there. And then it'll be like, oh, yeah, it didn't really work out. I wonder why. And, okay, well, why are you reaching? Huh? What are you doing? That's what I always like. I'm just wondering, like, for some of these teams, it's like they're too afraid to do something outside of like the ordinary or what's expected. And I think it's like the teams that kind of think outside the box are the teams that people remember. And I talk about the NL quarterbacks, NFC quarterbacks. I mean, all it takes is one guy. Like, it doesn't matter if there's only one good quarterback in the NFC. If that quarterback ends up being Joe Montana, where he's winning 4 Super Bowls, people are going to look back and say, like, oh, yeah, the NFC was really there. They won 4 Super Bowls in the past 5 years. It's like, no, just one team did, but thanks. Because, like, even looking back, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, yeah, the NFC had Joe Montana. The AFC had, like, Marino and Elway and all these other guys that everyone like fawns over. It's like, oh yeah, those guys are real great. Watching Joe Montana win a Super Bowl. It's like, oh, Joe Montana leaves and then Elway gets one. Marino never does. And I feel like kind of that has to be happening in the AFC side now, where like Burrow, he could be getting close, but he still has to beat Mahomes. You have to basically win the Super Bowl twice in a row. You have to beat Mahomes, and then you have to win the Super Bowl. You can't. It's tough to do it. He hasn't done it. Like they beat Mahomes, and then he lost, right? Then the next year he loses at Mahomes. So what's the difference? I think it was him, right? Or was it Josh Allen? Same thing.
Yeah.
Like Jim Kelly's like, I'm just happy to be here, guys. Like treats it like a bowl game. Just kidding. I know the Bills are close to win the Super Bowl. It probably pains their fans. It's not like they're Purdue just being happy to be at like the Tostitos third-rate bowl or whatever.
What did Purdue do to harm you? You're just attacking them this week.
Purdue's on my shit list, Matt, because I've been seeing a lot of stuff, and their fans have been talking trash on Michigan lately for no reason. I think more like a basketball thing. But I've seen a lot of their fans talk about like, hey, the Big Ten has Purdue. We don't really need another Purdue no-name like Indiana team like Notre Dame. And I'm like, Notre Dame's way better than you guys, like in terms of branding and everything. And to like just be there and like just be so negative. I've seen Purdue fans just like attacking like USC and UCLA, and I'm thinking, and it's not just them, it's like Indiana fans and Wisconsin fans for some reason. Because, well, actually, Wisconsin fans make the most sense because they've benefited from being in a weak West division, right? They were in the split divisions when they went on their run. Were they with Michigan? I can't remember, but like Michigan had their bad run, so like it helped elevate Wisconsin, and then Wisconsin gets put on the West side. And so they're constantly winning the West, and then just all you have to do is get lucky, win a couple games, and then you're the Big Ten champs, right? You win like 2 or 3 Big Ten champs, whatever it was. I brought it in last week. It's like you had that run in the West. Michigan was bad for that long. And in the past 2 years, Michigan has as many championships as you had. So what's the difference, guys? And I think that a lot of fans now from those West teams are kind of like annoyed. Purdue has a good year. They beat whatever to win the Big Ten West, and then they face Michigan and lose. So I think there's like some hatred there from their fans. But I see it a lot online for some reason. It's like, why? Are you mad about basketball losing in the first round? I said pick against Purdue. But until they do something, why would you not pick on them? Because that's going to be my transition into the next topic. Do you have anything else for the NFL, though?
No.
So to keep rolling, the Big Ten spring games happen, right? And I'm not like trying to be high on Michigan, but like Michigan, reigning Big Ten champs, they have a good bit of their team coming back again, right? So you have to have at least some type of high hopes for the team just because of who's returning, right? I feel like Penn State and Ohio State are the next 2 teams that are competing, but to me, they have a lot of holes, right? Penn State came out on their spring game. I didn't watch all of it. I watched some of the highlights or whatever. They played, from my understanding, the 1s versus the 2s, which should have just been a bloodbath, right? It was like the joke when was it NC State? I think they did something similar. And what was the final score? It was like, I think I texted to you because like the headline from the newspaper down here was like defense shines big at NC State spring game, and the final score was like 47-7 or something. And I thought, defense, what the hell? And it's almost like a satire, right? Penn State wrote the same exact thing. Penn State's offense in good hands. Guess what the final score was? I might have texted to you. You know what the final score was in their spring game?
What?
The 1s beat the 2s 10-0, Matt. 10-0. They couldn't even get 2 touchdowns on the backups. But yet the offense looked like it's good in good hands of their quarterbacks. And I was like, I couldn't have been I couldn't just be making it up. And then I saw like it wasn't just me that was like out there on Penn State. I'm not trying to dog Penn State, but during the broadcast, apparently the guy said, this is a quote, We are less than 2 minutes left in the first half, and what we haven't seen is accuracy or consistency from either quarterback.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, all right. And I know it's a spring game, and you have guys coming in, but you can't. I just don't see how people can hype in and be like, Penn State, like they're going to be in it. They have a quarterback that's like a 5-star guy. And at some point, I think the hype has to kind of like, do something. Like they're hyping Texas up again because they almost beat Bama last year, and Arch Manning looked like shit. It's like, he looked bad. Like that's awful. Of course, it's going to be Ewers, right? He's the only guy with experience, and I hope he balls out just because Ohio State let him get away. And Ohio State's another one. Looked bad in their spring game, and I know they have the talent, but at some point now, I hear people talking about like, oh yeah, you have a great chance to get a quality NFL quarterback from Ohio State. And I'm thinking, when are these NFL guys going to just realize Ohio State is a system? None of their guys have panned out in the NFL at quarterback. Yeah, their defensive ends are legit. Their wide receivers are legit because they recruit like gangbusters, but their quarterbacks haven't had it. Now you're breaking in another new quarterback. I don't know. I've seen a couple Ohio State like newspapers or whatever. I know they're like Homer blogs or whatever, but they're like, oh yeah, Ohio State will be back. They're going to take it over this year. And I'm like, last year, your team was major talented. A missed field goal away from probably winning the Natty over TCU, right? I just don't see how those teams coming in are going to be better this year, especially when you have the back-to-back Big Ten champs returning both running backs that ran all over Ohio State for the past 2 years, and their quarterback and basically like most of their other dudes like hanging around. So that's my Big Ten thought and like college thought, because I see that, and that's probably why like I have hatred for some of these teams, because I think some of the teams now, teams like Purdue that I wouldn't even have cared about. Like I know Wilton Spate got hurt there. They didn't have the ambulance stuff. The locker room on the away team like didn't have AC and stuff. So Michigan had to have their own fans at the game. And at some point it's like, when is this bullshit stuff going to end? Right? You can't be like, we're going to go against change. We don't want the Big Ten to change. We like it how it is. It's like, you guys aren't even competing in the Big Ten. You're the reason why it's bad. You win the basketball league, win the national championship. Michigan's making the national championship twice in basketball in the past like decade. They weren't even winning the Big Ten. I think they have as many natties as they have regular season championships, Matt. Or national championship appearances, not wins. But they've got there. And it's like, well, yeah, the other teams are more talented. It's like, well, then win. Win something. Quit making fun of Maryland. They're winning lacrosse or whatever that they're meant to do. Now, Michigan hopefully wins football, or Ohio State. Like one of them has to step up and win another national championship, right? But like in looking at recent history, I saw a Penn State guy like just talking so much trash on like USC. It's like Penn State, and they were talking trash on Notre Dame, saying Notre Dame hasn't been relevant since the 90s, which doesn't make sense because their last national championship was in the 80s. Guess what? Same time as Penn State's. Even Notre Dame won one more recent than Penn State, right? Because for whatever reason, their fans ignore 1994. So if Penn State wants to do something, they should have claimed 1994 as the national championship. Posted it up. That's coming up next year, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the anniversary. They need to claim it next year. And then this year, build on their team. Beat Michigan or Ohio State this year. You got to beat one, right? Beat one of them, and then talk about the hype. Because I think a lot of their guys next year are coming back. But do you really want to be in a Michigan game with your offense only scoring 10 points? They're going to grind this shit out of you like last year. Even Ohio State, like, you don't think they're going to score more than 10 points?
They're just going to control the ball with their power run game.
Yeah, Penn State, like, was that 4th and 5 where they ran that run play? And I saw someone was defending that play too this weekend. It's like, I see the most ridiculous stuff. They were like, that was the right play call. Ohio State's guy he read the gap and he just made an outstanding play. It's like, no, if they knew to stunt right to that play, it was the wrong play call, buddy. Like, what are you talking about? The right play call would have worked. Or like when Purdue did their like thing in the Big Ten championship last year, where people were like, "Hey, that was a cool play." It's like, yeah, Penn State, do a cool play that no one else has thought of, right? If Purdue can draw one up, you can draw one up. So that's my thing. Oh, I did have another random thing that I didn't send you because I was going to save it for a week we didn't have as much stuff, but I don't want to end up bringing it back in. So the Big Ten championships, right? Michigan leads all time at 44. Ohio State's next at 39. Guess who has the least amount of the like major original teams? Not the three new ones, not counting Rutgers, Maryland, or Nebraska because they don't have one.
Indiana.
Guess how many they have?
I don't know.
2. The Big Ten used to split championships. How do you only have 2? That's my thing. They've been in the league for Matt. I'm trying to look at where's their name on this stupid list. 123 years. It takes them over 50 years to win a natty or to win a Big Ten championship.
All right. Now, wait a minute.
61 and a half.
Why would you go to Indiana on purpose?
Matt, they kicked Michigan out of the league for 10 years. And Ohio State out. Ohio State wasn't in either. Like back in the zeros of like 1990s, 900, whatever the hell it would be, 1900s. So how did they not win any that were tied? Right? Like the Chicago has 7 Big Ten titles. They were in the Big Ten for only 44 years. They are ahead of Penn State and Indiana, the other 3 teams that haven't won one. Penn State is kind of close on the list, but in terms of winning the title based on like per year, Michigan wins one every 2.6 years. Ohio State wins one every 2.8 years. Then there's a gap. Chicago was next at 6.2. Then, of course, the team that everyone forgets, Michigan's second rival, Minnesota, 7 years, Matt. Every 7 years, Minnesota would win one. It's been a while, so that's probably going to keep going up. Penn State every 7.5 years. So Penn State,
wow.
And Penn State was there with Jopa in the 90s, like during their peak, right? I mean, I guess post peak because they won the Natty in like the 80s. But like you would think, because they were around when you could tie for the Big Ten championship. And they just didn't win it. They only have 4. So that ties into my spring game stuff with Penn State. Don't say like, hey, Penn State's arrived. They're back. Michigan won 2 back-to-back Big Ten champs. If they win another one, they're 1 away from having as many in the past couple of years as Penn State has won their entire history, Matt. Entire history along with tied championships.
No, see, this is the perfect time right now to say you're back. It's the same time that Miami says they're back, the Texas is back. Like, this is when you say you're back because it doesn't matter. You can tout all your big recruits and all the people that stood on the sideline and got to watch the game for free and project everything out. Be like, oh, definitely, we're trending in the right direction.
Matt, I was thinking like, all right, well, Penn State has to have like 7 or 8, right? Because I never really look at Big Ten champs because like I don't really care about that. But I was like, 4. It's like it doesn't make any sense to me because the way they talk and like even I talk about them, they should be like the 3rd, and I guess they kind of are because Chicago's not in the league anymore. But like if Chicago decided to come back and they're like, you know what, NIL's back, we're back, baby. We want to be in there, competing with everybody. Let's go ahead and just go crazy. And it's like, all right, what's the real power in the Big Ten? And now I don't even know. Like, I'm trying to see if I can find a list here, too, of, like, all the old ones. This is, like, the championship game. I don't want the championship game. Oh, right here. So, like, even going back, since Penn State has been in the league, like, around the 90s, was it 91 or so? So, like, we'll start at 94, just so that I'm 100% certain. Penn State comes in the league. Or whatever. They win it in 94, the Big Ten championship. Guess who wins the next 2? Northwestern. So Northwestern has 2. They win another one in 0-0, 2000. Of course, remember, these are tied. So, like, they're tied with Michigan, tied with Ohio State or whatever. 1995, they were the sole Big Ten champs, undefeated. So then Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Wisconsin, Michigan, then that other Northwestern one. And then it starts to, like, slow down because then you can't tie anymore after a bit. But, like, Illinois, Iowa's probably won. Nah, I guess they only won 2. If they would have won that other one against Michigan State, they would have been there. So in the same time, Penn State has 4, Northwestern has 3. If Northwestern would have beat Ohio State that one year, they would have been tied with Penn State. You couldn't even say Penn State was better. Because now you're up against the same teams, right?
Yeah.
That's what I don't get. Like, show yourself. How many has Michigan State won since 94? That same time frame. And I'm counting Penn State's at that time because that's their first one, I think. Unless they won one. No, because 90s was Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. So that has to be their first one. Michigan State hadn't won one. They won 3. So they also won 3. And, of course, you're going back to whatever. And it's going to even out because now you can only have one team win it. Right? So now the past 5 years has been Ohio State winning 4 and Michigan winning 2. So, like, is Ohio State going to catch up to Michigan's all time? If the last 2 years didn't happen, they would have been pretty damn close. They'd have been 1 behind, I think.
Yeah.
So let's roll with it. Let's keep going. It's just a shame that a team like Indiana, you've been in the league, you can't even share it. Northwestern shared 3. That's since Penn State joined. And you can't even win 1? Since 1967. So.
Can't always win.
Can't always win. And then Purdue, like, great work, boys. Purdue, I'm bringing you in. You won 1. Was that the Drew Brees year, 2000? They tied with Northwestern. Perfect right there. The last one they won was 1967. So I'll keep bringing them in. I just don't like seeing their fans call, like, Maryland or even make fun of Nebraska for not showing up. Like, yeah, Nebraska, they've had a couple tough years. I hope Matt Rule gets them up. But, like, Purdue and Indiana, their fans, you cannot make fun of USC and say, like, oh, I wish we could just kick Penn State and the rest of the teams out. It's like, why? Because if Penn State and USC is not in there, you're really going back to Michigan and Ohio State winning it every year. You can just say, yeah, that's what we want. Like, spank me, daddy. That's kind of like what they're saying. Let's get into our next topic. Unless you have anything on college football. I didn't have it as the main topic this week.
No, I mean, we had Florida State had their spring game as well, and I was pleased with what I saw. I mean, the big thing was just survive with no injuries, and I think with as much talent as they have coming back, you know, I think they're going to really make a big jump this year. Yeah,
because you're basing it off of talent coming back, right? Not just random dudes. If Florida State had, like, I know Penn State had, like, a double-digit win, but they have a new quarterback coming in. So, like, if Florida State was like, hey, yeah, we won 8 games last year, but now we got a new QB coming in, ACC champs, we're probably going to make the playoffs, probably win it all, you know? I'd be like, man, what the hell? Like, that might happen, and maybe it would, but I wouldn't be, like, 100% confident on it.
I mean, the gambling money is Florida State's going to win as long as Jordan Travis stays healthy.
And I think that's reasonable because the ACC is there for the taking.
I feel like if he's there, like if he stays healthy, I think they have a really good potential to run the table and not only make the playoffs but make some noise there because of what Norvell's been able to do with flipping the roster these last 4 years. And I feel like they're heading in that direction where they can compete at this level now. Like they've trimmed a lot of the fat and they've lived in the portal long enough that they're cycling the guys in that they need to. That this isn't the same team that was like 75% underclassmen and guys that really shouldn't have even been playing Division I. You know, to be honest, they've flipped the roster. They have And I think the skill guys were kind of there, but it was when your quarterback's constantly running for his life and there's no time to throw the ball, it really makes it that much more difficult for the quarterback. And now it's like they have the design quarterback runs in addition to, the drop back passing game, because he actually has a second to look downfield and find the right matchup. I think that, barring injury, and even in the event that there is injury, I think they still have the potential to have a really good year. Like, I don't think something happens to Travis and it becomes now the wheels are completely off. Like, I think they could still manage a successful year without him, but I think your chances of doing anything playoff wise go out the door with an injury to the quarterback.
That's like, I agree with you. And I also worry about like the running backs, because Michigan has like the 2 running backs came back and everyone was like, why did Corum come back? He could ruin his career. It's like he could also not get drafted high because no one in the NFL cares about running backs. And like in college, you need like all the Auburn teams that like win it all or go undefeated. They always have like 3 dudes running backs that they just rotate in, right, and stay fresh. And Michigan had that last year, and then they both got hurt. So like kind of gun shy, because I don't want to see the quarterback running, right? It's like if you have 2 horses, let them carry it, let the quarterback stay healthy. I'm always like afraid that the quarterback's going to get hurt. I don't know how some guys just get lucky, like Clemson, where none of their QBs are getting hurt, right?
Yeah.
Must be some kind of crazy juice they're drinking down there.
Well, and the crazy thing is, like, even look at the service academies, for as much as they're running triple option and things like that.
Well, I'm going to bring that in because I was going to use that as my final bell, but according to The Athletic, Army's switching to shotgun this year. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
Because they're not going to be running option because of the cut blocking change again. So now they got it where outside of the tackle box, not just like the line of scrimmage or whatever it was between the hashes, where you can kind of like get movement going. It's like you can only cut right there. So you're not able to get like spread down the line. So they just gave up. And
well, I think there's still aspects of the shotgun that they're going to run. Like there's parts that, like what Jamie Chadwell was doing at Coastal Carolina and out Liberty. I think they're going to run some aspects of that where there's different option type looks, but you package it differently with different groupings in the backfield and kind of just present a lot of problems. And their tight ends coach, Matt Drinkle, he was at Kansas Wesleyan and really did some things with out of the gun that were pretty unique. And he had some really high scoring offenses when he was head coach there. That I think he's going to help. He's going to be one of the people that's helping with that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Army takes a step in a positive direction this season and is able to score more points.
Well, that's where I've always said I wish that a team would just go to the pistol look almost, but like a modified wishbone. And you already do like the read RPO stuff. Like that's an evolution of like the triple option anyway. You're giving yourself 3 choices, right? So like just get a quarterback. I see hundreds of quarterbacks that always like get ranked low on like 24/7 or whatever, because it'll be like, yeah, great accuracy, just doesn't have the strength to make all the throws. And it's like, hey, Army, that's the guy you need. You need a guy that can just make all the throws, because you don't need a guy that's bombing the ball deep. Because like you bomb it deep, your guy's never catching it. Because like they always have one guy over the top, right? That's basically how you contain them. And so just get guys that can like run slants and like quick outs. And as long as you're getting the linebackers off the line of scrimmage because you're slipping behind them, then you're opening up the running game. If you have the linebackers crashing every single play, how many times can you just run a quick pop pass and just break it open like the old Tebow type stuff? That's what they need. They need Tebow. If Army could get a Tebow like quarterback, and I know that's like a huge ask because he was a big time recruiter or whatever, but a guy that is not known for the deep ball, that's just accurate basically, and they try to change his throwing motion or whatever, but a guy that's moderately accurate and is able to kind of move the pocket and like smart enough to make the reads, right? That's all they need. Then there's a bunch of high school guys that are like that are overlooked just because they're like not the typical pocket quarterback or they're not the typical running QB. So just get that guy instead of making him a tight end or whatever. Go ahead and just keep him there and roll with it. But that's the last thing I had for my final bell. Let's get into the XFL stuff because I know we're at an hour or so probably. So the news coming out that the XFL is rigged made me laugh because I look at this and I think about everyone saying the same exact thing as the NFL, right? They're like, hey, if there's a team with the big lead, notice how they like call penalties to keep it close. And people are like, no, that's just a parody in the NFL. Teams are actually good. They might just be playing bad. And it's like, you're saying the same thing about the XFL though. Like every week I could talk about crazy penalties and officiating. I've been complaining about it from college playoffs in football to basketball to like the NFL. And it's always like even the Eagles in the Super Bowl. It's like, why are you calling that penalty or whatever? Like, why are you doing that? Easily change the game for really no reason. So let them happen. Just let them play it out. If the team comes back and they still can't win and DC knocks it down, to me, that's even better chance of my boys DC getting a championship. I really don't know how I can even get into the game though, because it still hurts me that there's not a team that's close to me, because you have a team that's like 5 or so hours away. Yeah, they're going to be in the XFL playoffs or whatever. Where are the XFL playoffs even at? Like, is it in the home stadium? And so, like, I can't go and say, like, hey, yo, let's go to this weekend to watch some XFL football. You want to go to the game? Like, get some people to go? I was like, nah, I'm definitely not going to go there. And I see the format. So you get the neutral site for championship game, but it looks like it's a home game for the regular one. Then they're going to take a week off like the XFL. Why? What do you need a week off for? The NFL does it for like press and stuff. What's the XFL taking a week off for? To get to the neutral site, it doesn't make any sense. And it's like May 13th is the neutral site. So to me, I wish that the XFL, I've been watching it. People have been watching it. I brought in the comparison for numbers. The USFL, they got like 1 million more people watching. I think it was like 3 to 2 million. 3 of the games for the USFL were on over the air free, and that always gets more. If you compare the numbers, the USFL averaged on regular TV 891,000. So they were a little bit better than the XFL anyway. They had 878,000. That was the one primetime game, though, I think, on NBC that boosted the number. If you were looking at those 4 games, the XFL would have had the number 2 pick for the 4 that were on over the air. On cable, USFL only had 1 on Fox Sports or whatever, so they had 483,000. The XFL averaged 492. The XFL crushed him with games on ESPN. The ESPN2 game was pretty low, and that kind of averaged the XFL back down. But I think that that's kind of like the same thing. I hear people saying, no one expects football on Fox Sports. It's like, no one watches ESPN2, though. Like, I joke about like Iowa pulling like 1 million or so viewers on ESPN2. Like, that's a miracle job for them. That's the network where they show like bowling. I'm surprised that they haven't got rid of it. Right? I like it for like hockey and college hockey because they're getting around these numbers or whatever. But I like it because you can stream it now. They used to not even let you stream it. So now if you just have ESPN Plus, I'm pretty sure all the ESPN2 stuff I've been able to stream, at least stuff that I've wanted to watch. Maybe because it's different or whatever. I don't know. But I think right now it's too close to call. I don't think either league is more popular. I think the people that want to watch spring football are watching spring football, and unfortunately, it's not even 1 million people per game, right? Someone's like, 5 million people watch. I'm like, buddy, it's the same 500,000 people watching all the games. What are you talking about? Like, there's not 5 different people watching every time, every game. So you're getting 5 million people total. That's across 8 games. So how many people are watching all 8 games? Probably some diehard there. I mean, heck, how many games do I watch in college football? I'm not excited enough to watch the XFL. I kind of wish that it was more like college football. It's tough for someone to like spend so much time year round watching like football every day of the week. I feel like a lot of guys take a break because like how many people really watch sports? I feel like if you're a basketball guy, right now is your time. You had the college basketball. I feel like a lot of college and NBA basketball fans don't really overlap, especially that I talk to down here. They're either an NFL or an NBA fan or a college basketball fan. And you casually watch the other one, but I've never seen someone that's like, I watch every single college basketball game and NBA playoff game. Maybe there are people like that, but I feel like that's rare. That's how I feel like what they call it, like with football. I don't think there's a guy that watches NFL and college diehard and then the spring leagues as well. You would just be like crazy at that point, right?
But I feel like with the spring leagues, there needs to build to a level of familiarity too. Like there's a lot of change and turnover with these spring leagues that I think it's gaining some traction where they're doing some innovative things that I think is going to make the game safer. It's going to improve over time the quality of play. But I feel like if you're constantly in this state of change where there's new coaches all the time that aren't household names, and you have these players that like they're not going out and taking top college players and bringing them in like name faces that you're going to recognize. I think it's a harder sell unless it gets to where it's the magic ingredient time where these other leagues are showing a willingness to stay relevant in the spring and have some consistency with the team so that who some of the players are and where they're playing at, that like you can start to draw like, this is a team to follow or this is a team to follow, because there's not a lot of geographic stuff with some of the, like with the USFL where they're doing the games at like Canton and Memphis, I think.
Yeah.
And I think Birmingham one and Michigan the other, and they're just hosting like all the games at those 4 sites, I think.
Yeah, I think I saw that. And to me, I think that's kind of better, but you're still separating yourself. Like to me, there's like no difference if you're trying to make them like drivable. Like why put the team in Michigan? Like, you want to be in Detroit or whatever, and then have their closest other team be Pittsburgh, because that's who's going there, right? So like Pittsburgh just lives in Michigan? That makes zero sense. Why wouldn't you just get Pittsburgh and Cleveland and actually have 2 different stadiums where the fans are like close enough to kind of drive back and forth, but there's 2 different teams. So like, if you want to watch your team, you can. Philadelphia and Jersey are close enough to do it. I'm glad they got rid of Tampa Bay because I think the USFL is set up better. But you have Birmingham again and Memphis. They're not really close. New Orleans and Houston. Like, I feel like that's still going to be a heck of a drive to be like on a whim, let's go catch our team. Like, I feel like there has to be 2 cities in Texas, and I would have done Tampa, like keep Tampa and do Orlando. I think they're like an hour apart. Do Tampa, Orlando, what I don't even know, like to Houston and Austin. I don't know what cities are closest in Texas, but there has to be one that's pretty close. And then keep Jersey and Philly. And I think to me that would be perfect if you wanted to do that, or like put Michigan and I don't know how far away Columbus would be, but like that's like if you're going to get into like the rivalry type part, that would be a big rivalry, right? Like Memphis and Birmingham, what's the bad blood there? That's the only thing that I don't think people are taking. Like, you have Philly and Jersey, like, awesome. Do Pittsburgh and Baltimore then. They're a little bit further, but, like, that's why I said do New York and Boston. Historic rivalry, right?
Yeah.
Like, why not feed into other rivals? Because even my example of, like, Tampa and Orlando, like, I don't think those cities have bad blood, so, like, what's the difference? And in the North, like, Pittsburgh has so much bad baseball right now, there's nothing else to do. They're not in the hockey. If you had them have a football team, I think people would show up, and they're like, no, we're going to take that away from you too. That's going to be in Michigan, buddy. Sorry. You will not be playing there. You're going to be playing, or no, Pittsburgh's playing at they're playing in Canton, I guess.
Yeah, they're playing in Ohio. That's what I was going to say.
So even there, same thing. Like, why are they playing in Ohio? And New Jersey's playing there too. I thought they were playing, I was thinking, what's the one in New York? Is Cooperstown? Is that in New York? I was thinking that for baseball. But yeah, why? That makes zero sense. That's even worse. You have the rivalries that are right there that are close enough. But instead, like, if you're a Philly fan, hey, Philly has a team. Someone was like, yeah, I like the Eagles. Is that Philly's team? And if they would have said, like, yo, yeah, that is. Can I go to a game, Dad? What are you going to tell that kid? Like, no, we can't because they don't play here, buddy. They play at Ford Field and Detroit. It's like, why? Why did they say Philadelphia then? Just get rid of the city name. That's my thing. It annoys me. The XFL spread out so much that it's like, yeah, DC, who's the rival? I don't know. Is it supposed to be Seattle? Las Vegas? I honestly don't know, Matt. It's like, what team should I kind of be afraid of? Right now, DC's 8-1. It could be St. Louis or Seattle's going to be the team that they're going to play. And, of course, they're in the North Division, which is better. So they could get through the North and then have to play the South. Houston could make make out because the other team's going to have to win against two great teams in a row. Where Houston's going to play like a team with a losing record and then can save up all their stuff for the championship game. Right? So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm looking to see who DC plays last. San Antonio. So, they're probably going to be out, right? If DC beats them, then it's going to be Houston and Arlington versus DC and whoever Seattle and St. Louis play. Do they play each other? No, of course not. That would have been too easy.
They just play. I think Seattle wins and they're in.
Yeah. So that's going to be it. Interesting stuff. So now we have some football that's going to matter. I'm thinking that the XFL might be a little bit ahead this week. But again, I don't know. Are all the games for the USFL on network television? Because, like, the XFL had that first weekend where they all were too, remember? And if you compare that XFL's opening week versus the USFL's opening week, the XFL kills them. Because they had over 1 million people watch. But they also weren't playing against another football league. I don't know. I feel like I've talked too long today. You have anything for the final bell or anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we hit a lot. I just appreciate our ongoing support and just reach out and continue to comment and reach out with topics you want us to talk about.
It's crazy. Like, you don't want to talk about the XFL and USFL ratings, but they're directly competing against each other. Only one of them, I mean, I guess they could both survive, but right now you're kind of crushing advertisers, and the XFL really isn't trying, it feels like. So the fact that they're beating the USFL in some metrics, to me, is just mind-blowing. I'm surprised. Like, USFL has to feel like a downer. Like, I don't see how you don't break 1 million on regular cable when they throw, like, reruns of Seinfeld on or whatever that still break 1 million sometimes. It's like, why? So it's like, you can't even beat that? What are you doing? What are you doing? So, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.